and he's down ninth. Once again, not great qualifying from him, but as I said, it's very close in terms of actual time, so you can't be too harsh on him really in terms of his actual lap time. It's not actually that bad, but everyone's just very, very close.
Well, we'll watch Michi Hoy around the final parts. Jan Vojnica has gone fastest in the first sector. Michi Hoy going faster in the first sector than his previous on a 28.3, but Vojnica is the one firing in the lap time at the moment. Of course, he's down in 11th position right now. I know we did jump right into the end of qualifying, but they are rolling through their final laps, going through Puan right there. There is Jan Vojnica, so they're right basically on top of each other. It's a private session again to remind you, and they get 3 fast laps in this session, so that's all they get to try and top the timesheets. And Jan Vojnic's first couple of laps haven't been particularly great as far as we can see. What they're doing across the second sector, look at that from Jan Granqvist, by the way, who's up in 3rd position. Great qualifying so far. Purple in the middle sector. Michi Hoy is losing time at the moment, and he might be cost this pole position because Jan Vojnica is flying right now as we head to Jan Granqvist.
Yeah, he needs to find a couple of temps, though, which is quite a lot around here, as we've already spoken about. Very, very close, but it does look like Granqvist might just have enough here. Personal best in the first sector and a best overall in the second. He comes over the line now. Is it going to be enough for provisional pole? No. He falls apart a little bit in the final sector, unfortunately, so Michi Hoy looks like he's just going to survive and take pole position.
Yeah, not a great qualifying from Adam Rainey, who got a lap in at the end of the session. He's down in 15th, which might mark his worst qualifying in the last few rounds, because he's actually done really well over the last couple of rounds at the Formula SimRacing World Championship, with 2 top 10s in the last 2 races. But either way, with qualifying complete, we'll take a look at the order with Michi Hoy and Colin Spork on that front row of the grid. Colin Spork looking for yet another victory in the 2022 Formula SimRacing World Championship. Jan Granqvist with Sander Callis alongside, then Noah Roivers, Zolk Schuch, and then at one of the Oracle Red Bull Racing eSports, a couple of positions ahead of his teammate Alex Siebel, then Laurent Kiersmakers, and then Dennis Jordan. Good to see Laurent Kiersmakers, by the way, out on circuit. Of course, with a couple of issues, Jake Dennehan not jumping into the Edge eSports car for this round, and then Janis Barakshok, who was fresh off that podium last round, if memory serves, in 10th place. The number 89 Arnage competition car behind that in 11th spot, and the rest of the orders, as we'll see, Jan Vojnica, Kaz Rietveld, Ivan Leonov, Damian Skovron, then Adam Rainey, Casper Nizio, and then Robert Panzer, Tom Oldenmenger, and then Danny van der Neet in the Edge eSports will start from the back of the grid. Michi Hoy, though, another pole position. Can he translate this one? Can he make it number 5?
Well, yeah, I think if there is a possible opportunity for Hoyer to make it 5 here in the FSR World Championship, it's going to be from pole position. He does drive very well from there, as we saw at the start of the season in 2021. Obviously taking the first 2 or 3 rounds, completely dominating those. So, yeah, if it's going to come, number 5 is going to come for him, then it's going to be from the pole, I would say. But he's going to have such stiff competition today. You saw the times there in qualifying were outrageously close. So the likes of Sport, Granqvist, Callis and Roivers and all of those guys are going to be hot on his tail throughout this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is with Michi Hoy is that if he was to win this race, obviously it's being round 6, it is the race of the season, just to clarify that. But let's call it round 6. Let's roll with it as it is. It would be the latest in the season that Michi Hoy has won, because of course the 4 Grand Prix that he's won have all come in the early portion of the season. It was round 1 back in 2020, and then rounds 1, 2, and 3 in 2021. So if he wins this, it'd be round 6 or race 5, however you want to put it. I mean, I think it's, again, finding a bit of late confidence for Michi Hoy, who has struggled with the 2022 season, obviously with COVID as well. He's kind of struggled to get back up to full speed after that.
Yeah, he certainly has, and you can't blame him for that, of course. But yeah, I mean, he does tend to tail off a little bit towards the end of seasons on occasion. We see this last season, obviously winning the first 3 and then just falling away a little bit. So it'd be good to see him find a bit of form late on. Of course, he slipped to 3rd in the World Championship last season as well, which is a bit of a surprise, really, especially the way he started. But hey, we'll see what he can produce for us over the 44 laps this afternoon.
Indeed, and I think there is no better driver to take us around the legendary Spa-Francorchamps than Michi Hoy. Let's take a look.
Hello guys, and welcome everyone to Spa-Francorchamps. Welcome to Belgium, to the Belgium Grand Prix here in the Formula SimRacing 2022 season. I am once again delighted to take you guys around the presentation lap for round 6 in the Formula SimRacing 2022 season. DRS wide open into the first heavy braking zone. Turn 1, La Source. Want to have a great exit, a little bit of an eSports slide actually around the apex as we're powering down to the most iconic corner of the circuit. Eau Rouge flat out over 300 kph, 7th gear. Once again, DRS wide open here on the Camel Straight, approaching the best overtaking opportunity, which is Le Combe. Basically a right-left chicane as we go right and then left, huck the curbs, short sprint with a direction change to the right is the exit of Le Combe as we're heading down into Rivage. The car tends to oversteer here a little bit as we're going downhill, center of gravity all to the front as we take the left-hander no-name corner. Attention, track limits here on the outside, still need to carry all the speed downhill towards the high speeds. Pouhon, a left-hander in 5th or 6th gear depending on your gearbox, over 270 kph. And then into Fangnes, a right left-hander where the rear is always on the edge as you run low downforce packages here around Spa. As we head into Stavelot, again, you need to have a great exit here. Take all the speed you have, carry maximum speed on the exit as you are powering up the hill towards Blanchimont. Easily everything flat out. Great slipstreaming possible here, which may lead into overtaking here into the bus stop chicane as we once again go hard on the brakes from 7th down even into 1st, again depending on the gearbox. Huck both curbs, get the traction right here on the exit curb and across the line. That is one lap around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and now we will be excited to see who of the drivers is getting it right.
Well, we'll get ready for more racing action here in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. Of course, thanks to Michi Hoyer for taking us around the circuit. And thank you, of course, to our sponsors in Masita eSports, in 3D Rap and in SimLab. Of course, 3D Rap, all of our sponsors providing prizes and such for our drivers to compete for in the World Championship as we'll continue, and of course to our broadcast partners in VCO eSports, Lewis McGlade and Ewan O'Leary in the commentary booth. And I think it's about time we take a look at the starting grid for the Belgian Grand Prix here at Spa-Francorchamps, the legendary circuit, 7 kilometers in length, and we can see once again that Michi Hoyer will start this one for a pole position after a fantastic lap with Colin Spork alongside. Nice work. There we go with Noah Royver, Zoltstuch, Alex Siebel and Laurent Kiersmakers behind that on the 3rd and 4th rows of the grid. And then behind those in 9th place, of course, is Dennis Jordan in the Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports Camp. Janis Brakshock in 10th place, Jan Vojnitzer for the Networks P1 Sim Grand Prix, and then Kaz Rietveld in the Unicorns of Love will start from 12th place, and Carlos Martin. Then we've got Ivan Leonov and Damian Skovron down the order. Adam Rainey, 15th, one of his worst qualifying for the season, but see what he can do in the race with Casper Nizio jumping in the Super Venturi. Robin Panzar and then Tom Oldermenger for the Burst Simplexity Esports start down on the 9th row of the grid with Danny Van Den Eet in the final spot of the grid in the Edge Esports car. It's a tight grid, but Michi Hoyer on pole position looking for another victory. We've said that before, but Colin Spork looking to continue his reign in the 2022 Formula Sim Racing World Championship.
Yeah, and this reign doesn't look like it's showing any signs of ending, to be quite honest. 3 victories out of 4 so far, 4 podiums out of 4, and it's going really, really well for him. I think he'd be very happy with the 2nd place as well. If you'd offered that to him at the start of the day, he would absolutely take it in terms of this championship as well. The fact that Michi Hoyer starts the day 64 points behind him, it's not particularly too much of a loss to lose another 5 to him today. He'll be absolutely fine with that. A 35-point lead with 6 races remaining is not bad at all. And yeah, he's sitting in a very, very nice place indeed. All he needs is 2nd place from here till the end to take the championship. So yeah, he can very well stay here and be absolutely fine with it. But I feel like he won't do that. that's not really in his DNA. He will go for this race win no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the point structure in the World Championship at the moment, you knew I was going to talk about it. It doesn't reward the race win so much, which is fine. But it means that if you've had a good start to the season like this, when you're in Michi Hoyer's boots, it's almost impossible to come back up. You need some fortune, which is outside of your hands. Of course, to even get to that point, you need to get after it yourself, and that is exactly what he's trying to do here with that victory, to try and reignite his championship charge. Maybe he thinks that his championship charge is over, and he's just here to try and race and see what he can get with the odd win.
I actually do think that would make him perform a little bit better. Excuse me, in this season. I do feel like the pressure does sometimes get to him a little bit when he's in a championship fight and things are not quite going his way. I do feel like the mistakes slip in a little bit more easily than maybe they should do, and maybe they otherwise would, because of that pressure. I don't know quite what it is down to, but it just seemed to me to be like that. So maybe that kind of pressure off kind of attitude will help. But yeah, being 64 points behind is a real long shot, even at this end of the season. But as we said before, having COVID, you can't really help it, and it's difficult to string a good few race results together, as he's proving so far in this championship. So let's see what happens here today. As I said, I feel like the lack of championship pressure may help him to possibly a race victory.
We'll have to wait and see. We will have to wait and see. Again, they'll line up on the grid. The first row, of course, being Michi Hoyer and Colin Spork, Jan Grankvist and Sandar Callas. Sandar Callas, interestingly, see, I can't speak English. We're not doing very well at this. Starting on the medium tyres, same as Alex Siebel, Dennis Jordan, Cass Rietver, Damian Skovron, and then the three at the rear in Panzar Oldenmenger and Danny Van Den Eet. They'll all get themselves in line as we prepare for yet another evening's festivities here at the legendary Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. We'll get the lights on and we'll go racing one more time. Round number 6 of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship continues here with the Belgian Grand Prix for 44 laps. We're underway and Michi Hoyer leads us off the grid on the run down towards turn 1 at La Source. He's got to defend the look at Jan Grankvist, who's absolutely sent it down the inside and might well lead here. A bit of kick of oversteer off from Colin Spork as they run down the hill out of La Source for the 2-kilometre run all the way up to Les Combes. A little bit of side-by-side contact on a straight. We've seen that before a couple of times over the last couple of rounds. A little bit of contact. That's such a tight squeeze from Hoyer.
It was indeed. Grankvist using push to pass to get away very nicely here. It was a lovely move at turn 1, but Hoyer and Spork going to fight once again. Spork on the outside line into the first part of Les Combes. He's alongside well enough, and he sweeps around the outside nicely, shuts the door in Hoyer's face, and he's up to second.
Oh, and Roivers is also going around the outside, going through Malmedy. They'll go down the hill towards Ravage, and once again, this is where the advantage switches its way back to the German 4-time race winner. He's got the advantage. He's kicked out of the corner, and he does manage to hang on to third, but from first place on the grid, he's dropped all the way down to that third spot and is under a lot of pressure from Noah Roivers as they'll roll through. Pull on Jan Grankvist, though. If there was a driver this round that I was not expecting to lead, Jan Grankvist would probably be pretty high on that. He's doing absolutely superb around here.
Yeah, he's only scored a very few points so far this season, not got a top 10 yet either. Best result, 15th so far in this season. It's really not been too great for him, but ever since this qualifying session started, he's been absolutely on it. He was one of the first drivers to come across the line, and he's barely been pushed very low down since then as well. Very strong in qualifying and a strong opening as well. Normally when you see someone diving it down the inside at La Source like that on turn 1, it is a disaster, but it was very well calculated indeed. There was just enough room for him, and he made full use of it to take an early lead, but Colin Spork is not going to let him get away very easily. He made sure of that move on Michi Hoyer at Les Combes, and he's giving chase now, quite successfully actually, bringing the gap down to just around, hovering around that DRS margin, which is going to be activated in 1 lap's time.
I mean, he did take a lot of risk, didn't he, did Colin Spork, with the room that he gave. He kind of almost chopped over the nose a little bit there of Michi Hoyer on the departure of the second part of Les Combes, which is actually a chicane, by the way, and just kind of cut across a little bit, kind of taking a bit of risk. If he judged it a little bit wrong from the nose, he could have been into the barrier. Let's see if Noah Roivers can now pass Michi Hoyer. Obviously, on the slipstream, used a little bit of push to pass as well off of La Source, and instantly going into the chicane of Les Combes, is up into third spot.
Yeah, you get the feeling that this is going to be one of those circuits where it's very, very easy to go through your push to pass far too quickly. You only get 100 seconds of it a race, of course, in FSR, and that is not a lot around a circuit like this. You could very much use, a good fifth quarter of that maybe down on the run to the Kemmel Straight, from turn 1 to the end of the Kemmel Straight. I mean, so yeah, you could very well get rid of it all very, very quickly. But Reuvers feels like it was worth it there to get for Hoyer, and you get the feeling that it was a good decision because the German is certainly falling back a little bit, certainly in relation to Granqvist and Spork. So while it was a good qualifying for the Burst G-Sport driver, he's not started off this race in a very good way either, and in the races he's won before, he has always had good starts and led from the front. So it's now looking, his job's been made very much more difficult this evening.
A little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of push to pass. I don't know if you saw that, a little bit of push to pass from Mitchie Hoyer just to try and keep up with Noah Reuvers. Obviously, he's got Sander Callis behind on the medium tyres. Now, we're expecting this race to be a two-stop race, aren't we? Where we're obviously with 2 times tyre wear and such, with it being 44 laps, we're expecting it to be 2 tyres when it comes through the race. I'm assuming more of a soft, medium, or maybe from their point of view, a medium, soft.
Yeah, well, apparently so.
I hope so, anyway.
Yeah, I hope so. It's not my information, by the way, so or Lewis's. So if don't come blaming us if it's not. But yeah, no, it's going to be a two-stop race, as we've seen as we've seen for most of this season, really. As the DRS has now been activated for, if you're close enough, of course. And Jan Vosnick is going to make use of that very quickly indeed. Yeah, Lauren Kiesmaker's made a great start, by the way, from 9th on the grid. He was up for 6th very briefly, but Vosnick making sure that is put to an end quite quickly, and so he goes through up into 6th place now. But I tell you, I'm very impressed with Sander Callis in this opening few moments. On the medium tyres, you'd think he would be falling through the field quite quickly, really, but that's really not happening. He's keeping pace very well with those around him right now, only 3 seconds back from these two.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive whether the tyre wears or obviously sort of leaning into it a little bit. Of course, the tyres are slightly different this round than they were the previous, courtesy of the update to the Formula Pro car with the new build on rFactor 2, which is why you can see sparks and stuff. It's why the sound is most likely a little better. We can't hear it, but the sound is a lot better with these V10s now. You get the new sound system in rFactor 2 does sound an awful lot better. It does feel right to have these V10s screaming once again around the circuit to Spa-Francorchamps, but Colin Spork, either way, is on a charge at the moment. 0.4 of a second he is behind Jan Granqvist as he searches for yet another victory in the season.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and this fairy tale season for him almost doesn't show any signs of its ending for him. I questioned at the start of the season, he took the first race victory and everyone was talking him up for maybe a championship, and I thought, well, is he going to be mature enough and experienced enough at such a young age to be able to hold on for a whole 10-round championship? But he's proving week after week that he can hold on to this, and he's really giving young Granqvist a very hard time of things at the moment. The two of them getting away from the rest of the field, but you get the feeling that Granqvist is no longer going to be the leader by the end of the Kemmel Straight. Defence here, but outside line for Spork, it's not going to be enough. Surely for Granqvist to hold on. Spork even getting clear before we go into Lecom. A very, very easy move for the Unicorns of Love driver, and he's through to the lead again.
Yeah, lovely little move. Just, I mean, obviously assisted by the slipstream, assisted by the DRS. I mean, it is a long run. Like I said, it's about 1.1 kilometres from memory from the exit of Radion all the way up to Lecom. And then it's slightly under a kilometre down to Eau Rouge. So the entirety of the run down the hill, as we lose them there for a brief second, that actually really freaked me out. So I thought they were going side by side for an enormous crash. But we'll keep with it. We'll hold our breath for a second. But yeah, it's about I think 700 odd meters, maybe slightly less than, down to Eau Rouge from La Source. And then when you add them all together, it's roughly 2.1 kilometers from the apex of La Source down to the apex of the very specific chicane of Lecom, which I'm just going to keep bringing up because these two think that the chase is a chicane at Bathurst, which I'm just completely against. But either way, no, don't start. Granqvist, I can have my point. You're not allowed to have yours. This is a democracy. But either way, looking back, Sander Callis trying to hold on from Jan Vosnick, who's obviously on those soft tyres and charging.
Yeah, he certainly is. And Sander Callis, well, he has kept pace very well with those. Obviously, the soft tyres were always going to shine through eventually. And as this race is really starting to take shape after lap 4, he's starting to fall back, and he's going to have a lot of defending on his hands. Goes wide at La Source as well. Going to be he needed a good exit there, did Vosnick, but he's not really got it, I'm afraid. Callis has done quite nicely despite missing the apex. However, the DRS and the push to pass, if Vosnick wants to use it, is going to be overpowering, and Kiesmakers might even fancy his chances now. Here comes Vosnick inside line, and Callis doesn't even bother defending. I suppose why would you at this stage? Kiesmakers approaches quite quickly and might have a dive himself, will he? Very late indeed. Half-hearted almost as well, but he just about stays behind.
Got to be careful with those half-hearted moves, because that's where the instants come. If you're going to go for a move you've got to look and commit fully. In the background as well, Nizio did get past Skovron on the run into La Source as well. Adam Rainey's moved up one position, dropped down to 16th spot, but now has moved up past Kaz Rietveld and Ivan Leonov, of course, sort of teammates in the form of, direct teammate in the form of Leonov, and then sort of teammates in the form of Kaz Rietveld. So has worked his way up, obviously running those soft tyres at the moment, but I don't think a top 10 is going to be quite on the cards with the gap at the moment. But who knows how these races unfold, and it is a very raceable circuit at the moment. The top four have cleared away from the rest of the contingent though. It's Colin Spork from Jan Grankvist pulling away 2 seconds clear of Noah Roivers and Michi Hoyer, pulling away 2 to 3 seconds clear of Jan Voisnitzer and the entire train behind.
Yeah, and a huge train it is. You could probably say all the way back from Voznica now is trying to get away from it. You could probably bring it all the way down to maybe even Leonov right at the back of the field. I know there's a few bigger gaps in there, but it's a very, very large train indeed. And the Red Bulls, once again, are stuck right within it. It's a real bizarre one to see these guys not performing quite so well. Siebel only 5th at the last race. Dennis Jordan, it didn't even finish inside the top 10. At Le Mans, of course, having that incident on the first lap. Also had an incident on the first lap at Silverstone as well, didn't he? He's not been having great luck in the first laps of these races, and once again they're both way down in the lower part of the top 10. If they want to keep pace with Colin Spork in this championship, they really do need to start improving and taking some points off them again, because as we said before, Spork can finish second for the rest of the season and win the championship even from this stage. We're still in the first half of the season, so it's really not looking good for the Red Bulls. They need to get up the positions, as Lauren Koosmakers is doing just there on Santa Callas.
Yeah, I don't know why, but Alex Siebel and Dennis Jordan, they just are not matching to this car right now. I mean, when they raced here I know it's obviously not the same. There were quite a lot of differences from this to now, and also that was a 60-minute race. They did try a 2-stop race in the 60-minute Formula Pro, the opening season of the rFactor 2 Formula Pro Championship back in 2021. They tried a 2-stop race around here when everyone was trying a 1-stop race, because that was 1 time on tyre wear. This is 2 times on tyre wear. This race is also expected to be about 1 hour and 20 minutes long, and that was only an hour. With all that out of the way, they tried stopping 1 extra time, and it did not work. And I just don't think that Siebel and Jordan have particularly matched this car at all. They're just, I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but they just never look comfortable. They never look as speedy as we expect, and we know how fast this pairing is. They are, near champions. It's kind of rough to say that they're not champions when it comes to the team side of things, because it was only missed out by a single point, because it was 0. It's a bit rough to call them runners up, but that's what they are, and we know how fast they are. Yeah,
they are. They are. But we've got to remember, in this particular race anyway, that they are on the medium tyres, so that might be why they're buried a little bit. But then again, you can say the same for Callas, and he's above them right now, and certainly about the qualifying performance from them, you would certainly be expecting a little bit more, but it doesn't seem to be that they've quite taken to this car as well as, for example, Colin Spork has, and Noah Roivers as well, who I've noticed very much improved on this car as Michi Hoyer overtakes Roivers. We're just talking about him there, but Hoyer's starting to find his feet in this stint a little bit, and the DRS makes life very, very easy for him as well. Going further back once more, Keersmaker's back in front of Voznica. The DRS seems to be very, very, very powerful, because neither of those moves needed any push to pass at all. But the DRS alone was good enough for them to not only get alongside and get through, but actually get clear into the braking zone of Lecom, which is, very, very powerful indeed. So certainly if you're within 7/10 or so of the car in front, then you can have a great chance of going through up the Kemmel Straight, which you don't always see.
No, the DRS is extremely powerful. That coupled with the push to pass. I know obviously there's been a lot of conversation about removing DRS and removing this and removing that, but we know that if you do remove the DRS, it does mean the racing becomes incredibly difficult. And for me, I'd just be like, right, get push to pass and let's just boost it up massively. At the moment, it is a 60 brake horsepower adjustment, roughly. I think it's more close to 55. But typically these engines, the V10s, the max rev, which I think is 18,000 revs per minute, they typically top out about 800 brake horsepower. When you use push to pass, it goes up towards 860. And that's obviously what gives you the little addition, but that's less than 10% extra power. So it doesn't actually give you as much of a kick as you kind of initially anticipate. It's enough to get you alongside, but not normally enough to get you ahead. When you couple that with DRS, boom, we're going to see passes left, right and centre. Just most of them will be on that Kemmel Straight rather than in that central part, where I want to see some people doing some big brave moves.
I think we will later, but this early stage, it is too early to be making anything like that, really. So yeah, we'll hold off on that one and wait till a little bit later on, where hopefully we do see something like that. But yeah, for now, it's all reserved for the Kemmel Straight, and these guys are barely battling each other, to be quite honest, at the moment down the Kemmel Straight into Lecombe. Oh my goodness me, the Zooks, I think that might have been off the road. It was indeed, for ground effect. I think he's out of this race as well. Yep, no front left anymore either. Out of the race for Zolt Zooks. A big shame. Let's see what happened to him coming up Eau Rouge and Lecombe. Eau Rouge and Radion, I should say. Yeah, let's see what happens. But I don't think this is going to be the last time we'll see a replay from this section of the circuit. It is a hot spot for accidents, and there it is, spinning out onto the left-hand side, and then not much control over his car before ending his race finally on the right-hand side.
I think he touched too much of the curb on the right, and that's where he kind of got the rear just slightly loose and then just overcorrect it. And yeah, hit the wall on the left, hit the wall on the right, and yeah, it was a pretty big shunt. Is Eau Rouge a chicane?
Ooh, I guess. But who knows? Eau Rouge,
well, I mean,
just
if the chase is.
Well, yeah, we're not going. Who knows?
I'm bringing an argument, but from 2 days ago. I am apologising.
Yeah, that most of the people watching this right now probably did not know about it.
Right, so we might well go silent for just a few moments. If the broadcast does drop out a little bit, don't worry too much. We're just switching broadcast provider because Felix van Delft had a very long day. So we'll just step aside for a second. Well, hopefully it wasn't for too long as we continue the racing action, and hopefully you are still with us here at the Belgian Grand Prix for the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. Colin Spork is still leading from Jan Grankvist, and the second lead is now over a second, so it might just be out of that DRS range. We're focused on the battle though for realistically 7th spot. Jan Voschnitzer, then Sander Callas, Alex Siebel, Dennis Jordan, and here comes the move from Sander Callas. Look at that straight line speed. DRS, a little bit of P2P, and boom, he is back ahead.
Yeah, it's another slam dunk Kemmel Straight pass, really. I'll be interested to see a little bit later on, is there anything you can do? For example, if we're in a situation where the top two come onto the final lap half a second apart, will the guy in second place just be handed the win, basically? Because it's so easy at the moment to go through into Lecombe. How easy is it going to be to defend when this stuff is happening, when it actually matters a little bit later on? That's going to be interesting to see. But what is good for Callas at the minute, these medium tyres are finally coming into effect, really. The softs are maybe just losing a little bit of their advantage compared to the mediums, which are obviously going to go deeper into this race and are surviving at the moment a little bit better as we approach the first quarter of this race. But Rodger certainly seems to be falling back, and Siebel now is making an impression on the back of the NetRex car in front of him, and expecting a similar slam dunk move really in about 30 seconds time.
Well, we just saw a replay there of Jan Grankvist going for a dive down the inside on that replay, down into T1. A brilliant little move, just really committed to it on the brakes, and a nice little touch down the inside. It was really, really nice touch, that one. Like I say, just big commitment and just fired it in there, and boom, that's why he had the race. He didn't last too long though. Colin Spork did get back ahead, and as we start the 10th lap of the race, Colin Spork is still leading and is starting to pull away, looking for another one. How many wins would it be now? To be fourth win of the year? Fourth
win of the year, yeah. 5th podium out of 5 as well, which would be
third, rather, wasn't he?
He was third at the Malaysian Grand Prix, second round, and that was the real moment where I thought, is Spork really going to be good enough to hold this over the 10 rounds? Because the Red Bulls completely, despite the fact Siebel actually had a spin in that race, let's not forget, he still beat him quite comfortably. And I did think, is Spork going to be able to hold on for the whole of this championship? And the answer at the moment is a resounding yes. I know he's not got this race won by any stretch of the imagination, but he's doing so well at the moment. Even a second place today will be 5 podiums out of 5, which is an outrageous record for someone so inexperienced in this championship.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many drivers that have a record that is that strong over a season. The only ones, when you look at them, are drivers like Bunnerhaus, drivers like Jurne Simicic, drivers that have won world championships time and time again. Bruno Marquez, I'm sure, has records like that back in the mid to late 2000s as well, back in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. And so Colin Spork is trying to add himself to that list, and it kind of makes me wonder. I was like, can we get Jurne Simicic back in this championship? No disrespect to anyone else, but I just really like to see the Colin Spork versus Jurne Simicic dynamic. basically because it's passing of the guard. The issue being is that the passing of the guard has kind of happened when both of them have, one has stopped racing and one has started racing, and so we've not had that kind of almost important handover, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, you normally get that year maybe where those two are kind of at the peak of their powers and they're just kind of fighting it out, and then the new guy wrestles it off the old, if you like.
Sounds familiar, mate.
But that's not quite the it's not quite happened here, because obviously Simoncic has left. But it would be very interesting to see whether Colin Spork at this level, would he beat a Jone Simoncic at 2021, 2020 kind of level, where he was just dominating. So yeah, let's see. But the pit stops are well underway, especially for those on the soft tyres at the moment. Looks like Spork has indeed got out just ahead of Scrovron, but he's going to be given quite a hard time here. Where's Granqvist gone though? Quite a long way back, a very long way back actually. 5 seconds comparatively back to Colin Spork. So you see him just in the background there, miles away for whatever reason. Spork though with a very important defence there into Lecom, keeping Scrovron behind, and that was very important because he needs the clean air just to make use of these new soft tyres.
Yeah, I'm not sure why his pit lane would have been longer. Maybe it was down to missing his pit box or something like that. It's obviously all those things are entirely possible. But either way, he did lose, as you're absolutely right, a lot of time in the pit lane that time by. And so Jan Granqvist way behind even Michi Hoyer. We'll take a look on the replay to see what has happened. Here's Jan Granqvist into the pit lane. So he's nice and tidy in. No real issues here. But we'll wait until he gets into his box. He's speeding pit lane. No, he's nice and... Oh, my goodness. I don't know if there was any major there. Let's see if he actually stops in his box.
Yeah, does he have to reverse in here?
No.
No, he's not found.
Oh, he missed it. Oh, he did miss it.
Too shallow. Normally you go too far, but too shallow on that occasion, and had to just bump forward again, and that has cost him 5 seconds, which is very, very costly indeed. Hoyer is miles ahead of, well, say miles, two seconds ahead of him. So he'll drop to around 4.45 in this race now, after running in second place and challenging Spork. It's all handed Spork, of course, a nice lead, 2.5 seconds over Michi Hoyer now, and he's no longer got anybody hounding him as we go up to the leaders. Well, the leaders on the road at the moment. Anyway, Callis, Siebel and Jordan, all of these guys just need to run in tandem, really. Don't fight at this stage. You're not you are on the same strategy with each other, of course, but not to the most of the rest of the field. You need to make this section of your race as quick as possible, and then hopefully defend from Spork as much as you can as well. Can't afford fighting like this, and I think Siebel knows that, although he did want to get through on Callis there, made sure Callis knew he was coming through, and he was going to the front. He just looked a little bit quicker.
Yeah, that was a little bit dicey there, a little bit of almost a brush between him. And here comes Dennis Jordan straight down the inside into Ravage. He certainly looked, he opened the door, he committed to it. The inside line still goes towards Sander Callis. They're going to lose a lot of time here. Dennis Jordan's around the outside of the corner with no name, and that was a brilliant little run as Dennis Jordan has taken over second position. It's an Oracle Red Bull Racing eSports 1-2 on those at the moment, and as we've got Janis Brackshot closing in behind. But yeah, it's not typical that we see a driver not going deep enough on the box, but I guess those things kind of happen.
Well, yeah, it does happen from time to time. We speak so much about people going too long in the box and just and losing time that way. So I guess that must be playing on the mind a little bit, and you can do the opposite very easily. So yeah, there we are. It's happened to Granqvist. It's really cost him in this race. So I've got to do all this again. Let's not forget, definitely 2 stops today, maybe even 3. So that is going to be playing on the mind once again when he comes into the box for a second time. It's side by side between Brackstock and Callis. Now with Spork all getting involved. He's of course the first man who's made a pit stop in this race and coming through on some more soft tyres. Maybe even going to have a look down into La Source. Inside line from Callis, and Callis is going to fight this one around the outside, but Spork is going to make his way through on those fresh tyres, and you can just see how fresh they were on the inside accelerating out there.
Yeah, these shouldn't be the hardest cars for Colin Spork to pass. The issue is that Sander Callis might come straight back at Colin Spork here, up and over the crest at Radion, into the slipstream then with the DRS wide open, and Janis Brackshot is a sitting duck. But is he going to get passed by Sander Callis as well? We ride on board with Janis Brackshot. There is Colin Spork straight ahead. Sander Callis is not able to pass, so Colin Spork instantly back up into 3rd position. That should become the leader once this lot stop. Michi Hoyer will return up to 2nd position, and the Jan Granqvist, after missing his pit box in the opposite way than normal. He will be back up into 3rd position, we believe. But could this be Alex Siebel, Dennis Jordan, Janis Brakshock, maybe on the softs? Could it be them going for potentially even a 1-stop, or is that too wacky?
Well, I think all our answers are going to come when their first pit stop comes, because if they're going well past lap 22 towards 25 and maybe even 30, then we'll get the answer that yes, they definitely are going to be going for this 2-stop strategy. But obviously, if they're pitting in a couple of laps' time, then the answer is going to be no. This is a replay of Brakshock, by the way, getting through on Callas. Very impressive move around the outside of Blanchimont somehow, just about making this one work. And then it all got very dicey into the bus stop chicane with Colin Spork arriving on the scene. Brakshock tried to shove Callas out of that one for the second part, gave just enough room through the second part, and it was a nice move in the end, as we see Spork now attacking the Red Bulls. Into the final chicane they go. Siebel and Jordan are not going to make this easy for him, but what can you do? What can you do about this at this stage? It is so difficult with Spork having such fresh tyres. You just can't keep him behind, although Jordan back down the inside again into turn number 1. Though again, the acceleration on that car is incredible at the moment with the new tyres.
And look at this, Colin Spork straight on the push to pass. He's using it. Dennis Jordan's using a little bit as well as they climb the hill once more. I mean, I think Dennis Jordan is going to try and fire this. They're both going to get DRS. They might go a bit 3 wide here into Les Combes as they'll rise up the hill, up the Kemmel curve, as they will try and battle it down onto the braking zone. And it's Colin Spork who's gone around the outside, and he's taking the lead of the race.
Yeah, it has indeed. Both of the Red Bulls now falling away just a little bit. It's hard to do anything with those medium tyres. You really can't hold him behind. There were 2 of them there, both of them trying to defend from him, but there was still absolutely nothing that they could do. Spork back to the lead again, and even if the Red Bulls are going for that 1-stop strategy, it doesn't seem to matter anymore, because Spork is definitely going for 2 or maybe even 3, I suppose, but he's up the road already, and you can just see the advantage that those new softs have got compared to the fading mediums on those cars of Siebel and Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, Colin Spork is absolutely flying at the moment, and as much as they put up a decent fight, Dennis Jordan instantly firing it back through into La Source right there. He just didn't have enough pace to keep Colin Spork at bay. That was far too fast. And as soon as they've gone through that central section in S2, where, yes, we always speak of the downforce, how you kind of, it's a bit tricky to set up a downforce car around here, high, low. You want low for sector 1 and 3, you want high for the second sector. What grip is that, in a sense? If you put on your fresh rubber, that second sector, doesn't matter how good your aero is, you're going to be a sitting duck in that middle sector, and it just absolutely flew past.
You've got to remember as well, there's difference in tyre compound there, not just age between those 2 at the minute. Spork's on new softs, and the softs are always going to be miles better than the mediums. We saw this at the start of the race with Callas, despite the fact he had a very good qualifying performance. He dropped through the field really quite quickly because he started on the medium tyres. So you've got to factor that in as well. As Siebel now comes out of the pit lane after only 14 laps, out onto the road again on the soft tyres, just to be ahead of Nizio by the looks of things, up Rouge and Radion right now. Adam Rainey just getting out in front of him. I think Rainey has pitted already in this race, so he's going to get monstered either way. Outside line into Les Combes, and that's an easy 8th place for Siebel. He's just about made up to where he was before all of these pit stops happened. He's just got a lot of chasing to do now. All of a sudden he's 16.5 seconds from the race lead.
Also, they do continue to run the Alessio Campus tribute livery on the Netrex Grand Prix, which I'm actually okay with. I do like it in red. I think it looks very, very handsome in red, although I am a big fan of the green. So, I'm 55. I like it either way. But either way, great looking car. Of course, in the Netrex Grand Prix. But Adam Rainey, I don't think he's pitted yet. He continues to rise up the order courtesy of starting on the mediums. And that's why, because he started from 15th spot and he's worked his way up inside the top 10.
Yeah, he's done a great job so far. It's all kind of all over the place at this stage in the race. There's tyre combos everywhere. But what is very apparent to me is the wear on these tyres, especially the mediums, is quite severe. We're barely 15 laps into this race. Siebel has decided that it's time to come in. Jordan probably will follow him. Oh no, he's staying out here. So there we are. But Siebel already into the pit lane after about 14 laps in this race. And those mediums wearing very, very quickly indeed. So I'm not so sure we're going to be seeing 2 stops anymore really from these guys. I guess unless you do 2 medium-sized stints, then you would be going for the 2 stop. But if you're doing, I can't see anybody managing medium soft. here today. I don't think the tyres are going to be able to do that, so it's going to have to be 2 medium stints. And given the fact that Colin Spork has already had, or he's on his 2nd set of softs right now, I wouldn't be too surprised to see him do 3 stops. But who knows? We have got no idea. If we're honest, we are pinning a what's the game? Pinning a tail on a donkey or something. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we've got no idea.
Yeah, no idea. Well, either way, I do know what you're talking about, though. I am picking up what you're putting down, and Sandar Callas certainly is, as he gets down the inside of Adam Rainey. It was 2 for 1, Nizio and Callas both passing Adam Rainey, the NetRex Grand Prix driver, so he drops down to 11th spot. Nizio gets past a couple. Alex Siebel is now in 8th spot. He's done the fastest 2nd sector over the previous lap, of course, fresh tyres and the such. There he is, the Oracle Red Bull Racing eSports drivers. He's closing down on Laurent Kiersmakers. It's kind of a couple of seconds between each car ahead of him, which actually is, you kind of think is bad, but I don't think it is bad. It means you get to pick them off one by one. You don't have to worry about the train. You don't get stuck in with it. You just get to them. You DRS your way past. You think, right, cool, thanks, bye. And you're already starting to pull away. Nizio, Callas, and then Rainey and Brackshock all in this battle for 9th place. Yeah,
I do think that is a little bit easier. I swear that only if you cruise up to the back of them and go through immediately. If you can get stuck behind a singular person in the same way that you can get stuck behind a train. So if he keeps training on past them, basically at the first opportunity every time, then he should be all right. But you can still fall into that trap as Callas looks. Wow, that's very deep under brakes from Nizio. Completely got foxed there by Callas's attempt at a move and rejoins. Dearie me. He's rejoined right onto the racing line there and taken out a couple of cars with him. And so that is a real shame. Got completely outfoxed there by Callas into the chicane, and then the rejoin left a lot to be desired, I'm afraid. So he's down to 12th, and he's got a few people unhappy with him now as well.
I will say Adam Rainey's rejoin here was also pretty shocking. But here's Nizio. We'll take a look at it again. This is honestly awful. Anyone who has this sort of idea, I get it, you want to get on with it, but this does not belong on the racetrack. That, for me, regardless of contact, that is a penalty. And then watch Adam Rainey come across here. That's dangerous. That is flat out dangerous. So that is also not a good idea. But they'll battle it out either way now for 11th position, a few positions down. And it's 2 drivers who potentially might have a little word from the stewards afterwards. Because for me, that's a penalty. Even if there's no contact, an unsafe rejoin is an unsafe rejoin.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think the fact that curb is there helps, to be honest, because it completely flipped the front end of the car up in the air, and obviously you can't do anything.
The apex,
well, I know, yeah, but I still don't think that curb particularly helped. But anyway,
no, I agree.
It's yeah. We'll let the stewards deal with it, and I'm sure they will do when they at the end of the race as we go up to a replay of Noah Roybers getting up into 4th place ahead of Jan Grankvist. This is not really anything you can do in Grankvist's shoots here as he drops now off the podium. Well, I'll say that he was 4th before, but Dennis Jordan's yet to pit, so that does skew things just a little bit. He's still in 2nd place and holding on very well. It does seem that the guys at Red Bull have split their strategy a little bit. Jordan going about 3 laps longer than Siebel actually managed on those medium tyres. I don't think that's going to really open anything else strategy-wise for him, but it is interesting to see the fact those 2 pitted so far apart, and you can see the disadvantage for Jordan because he's come out 7-8 seconds now behind his teammate.
Yeah, of course, he'll gain a little bit here as I take the shorter run. He's kind of got to come straight out behind Janis Brackshock, still inside the top 10, which I think is for them. They're aiming for a good couple of points. I think they're obviously going to aim for a couple of top. Oh, what is possible here? I was going to say top 5s, maybe. Is that not a little bit too far down the road? Either way, that's where Alex Siebel is right now. So he's just blasted his way past Jan Voschnitzer. So he has done that one. Dennis Jordan obviously straight past Janis Brackshock with the DRS and a bit of push to pass. I think Dennis Jordan will make short work of the likes of Callas, Kiersmakers and Voschnitzer, but still, I don't know what's really possible here.
No, I think a top 5 is not aiming too high at all, and I think a top 5 is going to be all they get, because if you think about it, Spork, Roybert and Grankvist at the moment are the top 3 off the road. No. Ivan Leonov has gone off, I'm afraid, for NetRex, and we're going to see what happened to him very quickly. In a battle here with Nizio once again, outside line. Nizio into the side of Leonov, and who gets into the barrier there as well. Can't really stop on the gravel. Nizio just losing the rear end, really, didn't he? Halfway through Lecom and slid straight into the side as we see Tom Oldermenger making his way up to 14th position. A very easy move here on Cas Rietveld, who's standing in for Carlos Martin today, made easier by the fact that Rietveld went around.
Yeah, it was a very easy move. It's about as easy as you're going to get around here. You just dive down the inside and then let the other dude make a mistake. The Nizio one there, I feel like, because obviously he just got on the curb and it's just spat him to the left. So I'm kind of like, again, it's his responsibility in the car and such to keep control of the vehicle. But that one I do feel a little bit more for, because I can understand that one. Obviously, the rejoin I'm still irritated by. I'm still irked by. But still... that was just a bit rough, and it was a big shame for Ivan Leonov. Here we are then on board with Michi Hoy looking back with second position. Noah Roivers on the march back up the order with DRS wide open. He moves himself back up into second position and joins, well, it would be a 1-2 in a sense between the two drivers that are teamed up, of course, for Netrex in the rFactor 2 Formula Pro Series. So those two marching their way forward and doing the brand of Netrex and Unicorns of Love very well indeed.
Yeah, Netrex have been having such a fantastic 6 months or so. It really has everything going right for them. We saw this in Indy Pro towards the end of 2021 through the kind of winter season kind of period. They were really good, and it was a bit of a surprise at the time because we didn't really consider them a top team in FSR before then. But now they certainly are a top team, if not the top team in FSR at the minute, with the I don't want to say the demise of Burst because they're not.
No, I think so.
Sorry, because. Sorry, Cam sat next to me.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't help. But no, they have certainly fallen away from where they were in 2021 and 2020. Winning the Teams Championship 2 years in a row, certainly shows, and the fact that they're absolutely nowhere in that championship at the minute does show that they have fallen away quite a lot. Fourth place in that championship at the minute, and Hoyer and Skrovron haven't quite performed the way that they maybe wanted them to. Obviously, Hoyer's having a better race here, but I did think after his Indy Pro performances, Skrovron was going to be a little bit better. So, Netrex has certainly taken advantage of that, kind of taking advantage of the hole at the front of the field that has been left, and they're taking full advantage of it. 1-2 at the minute, in inverted commas, 1-2. They kind of are.
I mean, yes, it is very harsh, but I think it's completely true. I think Burst, for whatever reason, for various reasons, are struggling a lot more with this car than they have done the previous few years. There are a few reasons which read into what you will with the cars and such that have been built, etc., and then using the Formula Pro car, which maybe hasn't matched too well to their driving styles and stuff. They have flashes, right? But same as with Oracle Rebel Racing eSports, they've had a 1-2 this season, and then look at them in this race. But look at the blistering consistency of Netrex. And it's not just one or two drivers, right? It is them as a whole. It is here. It is in Formula Pro. They were actually kind of rubbish in Formula Pro, so we won't go into that too much. Sorry, lads. In the Pro Championship in Acura, I think they race in Acura as well. But they're very strong, basically, wherever they race in this car. They figured out something on this car that is consistent, whether it's here, whether it's at Matsusaka, whether it's at Monza or wherever. They just click.
Yeah, they have really clicked with this car for whatever reason, but it's not only that really. I would kind of give them a bit more credit than just being able to get good with this car, because, as I said, they did very well in Indy Pro last season, or at the end of 2021, through the kind of winter period, and that is in a completely different car. It's a completely different format. It's a wild format, which is why we enjoy it so much. And it's a completely wild car as well. But they did really well in that as well. So they've just been going from strength to strength recently, and this is only proving more so. Obviously, we've seen Spork on the podium 4 times out of 4 this season. Noah Roivers has been in the top 5 3 times out of 4. The only other time was when his brake failed, coming into the very final braking zone of the first race at Imola, which was pretty unlucky. Jan Voslik has only been outside the top 5 on 1 occasion this season, or out of the 3 that he's attended. So Netrex have been really good across the board, not just through one driver. But obviously, one team trying to put an end to that is Red Bull and Alex Siebel at the moment, on the back of Grankvist, and getting through fairly easily here. Siebel's doing very well in this stint, actually, I have to say. I know he is on the softs compared to Grankvist and Hoyer, who are both on the mediums, but he's closing down on them very quickly indeed, and he's going to be in a podium position before long, you'd imagine.
Well, I mean, maybe they are going for a double top 5 in here, which I think would be a bit of a victory. We did see Jan Vosnitzer, by the way, a bit earlier on. That is a 3-stop strategy for at least Jan Vosnitzer, and we believe with Adam Rainey coming in at this point, they are also looking for a 3-stop strategy, because they've done 2 now. This is the 2nd stop. I do apologise. I think that Adam Rainey being in 9th place was way too high. based on his pace so far at this circuit when he's done that with a pit stop. But nope, absolutely right. Now he's made his second pit stop, definitely aiming for that third, which, considering the progress that had been made, considering he'd made a pit stop and was inside the top 10, maybe a 3 stop's not a million miles away. We did get a whisper in our ear from Felix van Delft a bit earlier on our previous broadcast director not too long ago. We're flying through them. If anyone else wants to jump in and be broadcast director, jump on. But he was also whispering in our ear and saying that potentially a 3-stop strategy might be viable if Dennis Jordan's going to go down the inside of Laurent Kia's makers. Not quite yet.
It does seem to be that you don't actually lose that much really from making a pit stop here. You saw Jordan make a pit stop not that long ago. He's only 16 seconds behind now, and I'm not saying that's because he's been absolutely astonishing out of the blocks here. He has been pretty good on the pace, but he's certainly not closed down, a good 10 seconds, which is what you'd expect, really, at that stage. It really is a shortish pit lane. You don't lose a lot of time from making a pit stop here, so a free stop is a lot more viable than it might be at a slower pit lane, a longer pit lane. So yeah, that does open a few more doors as we see Kia's makers under pressure here, although doesn't really feel it because he's not really bothered. He's going to let Jordan through. The two of them know that they are on completely different strategies at this stage of the race, and it's a good idea just to let Jordan through. That's exactly what he does, and now Red Bull are in fourth and 6th position at the moment, with Siebel not too far behind at Michi Hoyt, and looking to make this move. I actually thought he would have had this move done by now, but it looks like he's just going to have to wait one more lap before getting onto the podium for the first time today.
Well, they're probably, the thing is Michi Hoyer and Alex Siebel, Dennis Jordan, they do all kind of communicate to a certain degree if memory serves, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. They certainly used to. Of course, well versed at working together in their time. Of course, when Alex Siebel and Dennis Jordan were at Edge eSports, doing championship stuff, they were with Jone Simičić and stuff in the Virtual Endurance Championship, and they've done bits and bobs, so they've worked quite tightly together. And so as we continue in 2022, they probably wouldn't exactly fight each other too much. Of course, that is about it in practice, because they did fight for this was even back in 2020 or whatever it was, when they were fighting for that championship. It was 2020 when they were fighting for the championship, and it came down to 0 points. But still, as much as they were practicing and stuff together and working together off track, as soon as it goes into the race, visors down, and we're competitors. But I still think you'd kind of work a little bit with them.
Yeah, they might just try. I think even if they're not mates at this point, it's quite sensible to just help each other, because we've only just crossed the halfway mark in this race. So, what's the point of really fighting when the two of you are on different strategies anyway, even if he's your mate or not? So I think it would be sensible for Hoyer to just stick to the left-hand side here and let Siebel through. That's exactly what he does, and I think Siebel knew that was going to happen, because he didn't even bother with any push to pass coming out of the source there, or even on the run up to the Kemmel Straight as well. He just used the DRS to his advantage, and he knew that Hoyer wasn't going to give him a very hard time, as Temir Skrovron gets through on Jonas Braksok here into Lecom as well. Just while we were speaking on that as well, Colin Spork and Noah Roybers both came into the pit lane here, but just pointing to Spork's lead at this stage in the race, he's come out in fourth place, only 4 seconds behind the overall race leader. As I said, even if he's making a 3-stop race at this point, he's so well placed on those new mediums now.
Definitely making a 3-stop race. It's halfway through the race. We're expecting another one then, at least from this point. So most of the NetRex drivers going for that 3-stop. Just to clarify as well as to why the pit lane is so much faster than you would expect, because even at Spa, I know it's a short pit lane, but you still expect to be quite a lengthy one. Normally, if memory serves, the pit lane speed at Spa is 60 kilometers an hour, because it's a very tight pit lane. However, here in the Formula SimRacing World Championship, it should be 100 Ks an hour in the pit lane, which means it's incredibly fast. And when you come into the box, I mean, we saw it when we were on board with Grankvist after he completely missed his box and then moved forward and then stopped. He literally stopped and then was like, yep, and gone. Like, they are not stationary for very long at all. It's less than 3 seconds and very comfortably so. Like, watch this. Up and then just down and then away.
Yeah, that is that just surprised me a little bit actually as well. I was surprised to see quite how quickly these guys were able to get those tyres on and off. So fair play. But yeah, it's a very short pit lane. Sorry, very fast pit lane, and that is making these gaps very small indeed in terms of how much time you lose. Out the pit lane come Hoyer and Grankvist. at the moment, with Roybers now on the back of Braxock and Vosnica on the back of Hoyer. Of course, down the Kemmel straight here for Netrex, trying to get through into the top 5. Push to pass and DRS being used for Roybers, and should be able to make his way into the top 5. He does indeed, but despite being not too far behind in terms of actual net positions in this race, Spork is still 10 seconds up the road from him.
Well, I mean, this race is really going Spork's way, you do feel at the moment, and it kind of makes you wonder as to what is going to be possible for Colin Spork, because he just seems to keep going from strength to strength. Denied pole position, he's like, yeah, okay, cool, I'm still going to win the race, but each to their own. And he's just been on an absolute charge, such a young talent, and it's why, you know, for someone as young as he, having driven for some of the biggest teams in sim racing, like Team Redline, you know, not a bad team to throw to your list. And then, of course, Unicorns of Love, who are one of the biggest teams, more so in ACC, where they are one of the biggest teams. And then, obviously, across eSports generally, moving over into rFactor 2 with a partnership of Netrex. I mean, it's not a bad brand to be partnered up with when you're a growing talent like Colin Spork is aiming for the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, which even still is a very prestigious title and a very hard one to go and get. And it's one that you add yourself to a list of names where you're just kind of like, wow, those are some pretty good drivers.
Yeah, well, you have to be. You certainly do. But yeah, Spork is so mature for his age in terms of on the racetrack. He's so consistent. We speak about this all the time. Drivers this young, we've seen 17-year-olds, kind of teenagers with his pace before. But I don't think I've seen a driver so consistent and so kind of well-rounded on the track compared to Spork at that age. So yeah, very, very impressive indeed. And we're going to have to get our research doing here, because I can't remember a younger. There might have been a younger world champion than him in FSR, but it has been a while.
Oh, Bono probably would have been younger in 2010, because he would have been.
That is 12 years ago though, so it's quite a. You know,
he would have been like 16, 17, because he's not much older than me. I think Bono's 94, so he would have been 16 if memory serves.
You mean 1994? Not he's 94 years of age.
Yeah, he's 94 years old, much younger than me. Certainly how I feel when I'm in the commentary booth with you, good sir. Boom. But no, I think Bono would have been it. But either way, there's a little bit of racing, a little bit of contact from Adam Rainey and Robin Panzer. They're rolling through the corner with no name out of Ravage. Just a little brush between the two. They kind of came together, a little bit of a squeeze there from Panzer. But I mean, that's hard racing. There was a car width there with the curb, as Colin Spork is continuing to close out. But I think the last person I can remember that was maybe as fast, it's kind of a bit iffy because it was a long time ago, was Lars Brugman, who was 17, 18, and was very, very fast and very mature for his age in the race car. Had a great head and his shoulders. Why he picked up championships kind of left, right, and centre, and then just kind of gave up on sim racing, which I'm kind of looking at thinking a waste of talent.
Yeah, did he win the Virtual Endurance Championship or not? He certainly won some races.
No,
I don't think he won the title.
But do you know who his teammate was?
Yeah, you. Yeah.
No, we didn't.
Did you win that race at Sebring?
Thanks, mate.
No, I don't think
we didn't. We did win at Silverstone, though.
Yeah, there you go. No, yeah, he was a very, very, very good driver for his age. Probably quite a few years ago now, but
2015.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's quite a long time ago. But yeah, no, absolutely. He's. We don't see talents like him come along very often.
He was on board at that
certainly
point.
Is one of them. 2015. I was watching.
Oh, wait.
I was, yes.
Goodness. Wow, what a terrible life.
I know, yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, back to the race briefly, because Jan Gregfist getting through on Jonas Braxock there. I think they've both made 2 stops at this stage. No, Braxock's only made 1. He's trying to make these tyres last a very long time and probably go for a 2-stop overall at this stage, really. We are seeing quite a lot of split strategy in terms of Siebel and Jordan still have only made 1 stop, but Spork has overtaken them both, despite the fact he's made 2. And will probably be going on the 3 stops. So yeah, it is. This order does look a little bit all over the place at the minute, to be honest, and I can't see it being very similar in 18 laps' time. But I know who's going to be winning. I doubt it. I have no doubt, almost no doubt. Anyway,
almost no doubt. It's 91.6% assured from the Ewan O'Leary big book of maths. Adam Rainey has managed to work his way up into 12th position. We did catch that move, so he's finally got his way past Robin Panzar. This is the battle for 9th place. Jan Vojnica, Joran Kiersmakers. Look at this dive, though, from Jan Grankvist. Damien Skovron, who's inside the top 10 now in a 6th position at the moment. Alex Siebel comes into the pit lane for his 2nd stop of the race and will depart it on the, I believe, the soft compound tyre, as he'll try and make his way to the checkered flag potentially from this point.
Yeah, yeah, I think anybody pitting at this stage really will be able to make it to the end on mediums anyway. So yeah, you'd be hoping so, as Grankvist gets on the back of Skrovron here, who's found himself inside the top 5 all of a sudden. Hopefully going for the two stop here today, because this is panning out quite well. Moves down to 6th just ever so briefly now, with Grankvist moving forward, but yeah, who knows? Side by side once again, Sander Callas trying to improve. Had a great qualifying, of course, has fallen back, but he's starting to rise forward again, side by side with Vojnica, who pushes him a little bit wide at Malmedy, and Kiersmakers are going to be all too happy to take that position. So attempting the pass for 9th, he's dropped down to 11th, unfortunately, for Callas.
Well, you've always got to be careful when trying to go for moves. We'll take a look at a replay of that, as we'll ride on board with Sander Callas for it. If you try and go for a move, what happens if it doesn't work? Well, typically the door will be open. Oh my goodness me, that was a massive moment from Laurent Kiersmakers, and Sander Callas only just managed to miss as oh, sorry, was that Laurent Kiersmakers? Either way, yeah, it was a very, very close moment.
Yeah, it certainly was. I didn't actually realise that he'd started all that ahead of him, but there we go. It did very well to save it. Little bit of contact there. I don't think Vojnica quite meant to push Callas out quite that far, but a bit of contact sent the cars both straight on, and it did look quite bad in the end, but not really his fault at all. You see Tom Oldermenger's actually out of this race at the moment by the looks of things. So, and by the way, Ivan Leonov got back to the pit lane with only 3 wheels on his wagon earlier on, and he's still in the race. So
I was shocked by that.
I'm quite shocked by that as well. But clearly wants those points and needs those points, which is, of course, the advantage of giving everybody points. Because if the only top 10 got points here, then he would be completely demotivated to continue on. But he's... Oh,
you just my point structure. We're
yeah,
that way,
I am.
Are we?
I am, yeah. So he's going to pick up another place in that, and his effort is going to be rewarded by the looks of things from continuing on in this race.
Hey, that Netrex gaffer tape is really strong, apparently so. But either way, Brackshock's got something to worry about, as Alex Siebel, fresh out of his pit stop, now works up another position up into 7th, as Jan Vojnica also gets up into 9th on Laurent Kiersmakers. He might drag Sander Callas through as well. A little bit of squeeze once again going around the outside is Sander Callas, and there is not the opportunity there. And so they keep in position right now, as we'll take a look at yet another replay to see what happened to Tom Oldermenger and his retirement from the race. This is rolling down to the corner with no name. This is going to be a solo mistake. I think it might be from this spot. Oh, it's disconnection. Never mind. I was expecting a really dramatic crash then, but nope, just a solid disco.
Yeah, unfortunately, just a disconnection and out of the race for Oldermenger, unfortunately, as we see Brackshock here having a few problems defending from one of the Red Bulls. Must be Siebel, I suppose, mustn't it? At this stage. No, oh yeah, it must be. He got through in the end and into the bus stop chicane as well. Kiersmakers just behind Jan Vojnica at this stage, with Sander Callas just behind. Kiersmakers setting this one up very nicely indeed for a nice run down the main straight, but not able to make the move into turn 1. He's going to do well to make this move into turn 1 anyway, and so he's had to stay behind in 10th for the moment, as Damien Skrovron, I believe, getting overtaken by Siebel as well. But a really good recovery for Skrovron. He qualified a long way down, but he's well inside the top 10 now.
Someone who I would argue over the first few rounds of the championship has not really impressed. That is harsh, yes, but this is a harsh sport, so you know it is what it is. Take it or leave it. I mean, I'd leave it, but still. But either way, you know, he's not really impressed. But you're absolutely right to have come from a qualifying order, qualifying so far down, and to look like he belongs up in the top 10 right now and battling with these drivers. It's why we like a strategy race like this, where it's so open. Jan Vojnica pulls it over to the left-hand side in his Netrex P1 Sim. They're going to go 3-1. Sander Callas is trying to slot it through the middle. This is going to be a bit of a dicey one. That was always going to happen. 3 wide, not really paying attention. I need to see that one again. I think Laurent Kiersmakers might have come across on the straight, and bang, that's a massive crash. Jan Vojnica will 100% be out of this race. I think Sander Callas might be as well. We'll take another look. Ewan, help.
It is Kiersmakers certainly squeezing in the middle there on the ground effect car, and then Vosnica. So yeah, this is certainly on Keersmakers for me. He's got to know that there's 2 cars on the outside line there, and you've got to give the room. Oh dear, yeah, that's certainly on him, and he will probably be getting a penalty for that one in my eyes. Looking at this, he starts very far to the right hand side, and there is space for those 3. There's nothing wrong with the fact that Callis has gone through the middle there for me. He's perfectly entitled to do that, but the fact that Keersmakers has come across so much, and you can see it from this angle here, Vosnica doesn't even know it's happening, and he's going to find himself in the wall very, very quickly, unfortunately. Going to be very, very unimpressed as well with how that's happened. So yeah, that's totally on Keersmakers for me. He's come across too much, and very, very unfortunate to see those races not quite ending in that way. It doesn't look like they're going to get back to the pit lane, but certainly being halted dramatically and losing a load of points, a load of positions because of that.
No, I agree. I think Vosnica is clearly the very innocent victim. Sander Callis might be blamed for making it 3 wide, but like you said, I completely agree with you. That door was wide open, and there was no reason why Sander Callis couldn't go for that. The only person that is at fault in there is Laurent Keersmakers for turning over. I get why. I think there is a very good understanding. I would say that he probably didn't know that they were fully 3 wide and thought that they both might have cleared Jan Vosnica, but you can't make that assumption because you should never assume in a race car. You have to know for certainty, and that has caused a few issues. Looking back from Robin Panzar as Nizio is closing in the Super Venturi.
Yeah, he's got a lot of overspeed here, and while Panzar is going to put up a bit of a defence, wow, goodness me, can't do anything at all. Nizio through halfway down that straight, basically, as Damien Scrovon coming under pressure from Adam Rainey now as well. Has Scrovon been in, or has he been off somewhere? He might have been. Oh no, he has been into the pit lane by the looks of things. And then he's come out right beside Adam Rainey. Here he is on the outside line for Netrex. Is he going to be able to? Oh no, he has a slide out all on his own there. I thought that was going to be contact between the 2, but Rainey just pushing too hard, ever so slightly, had to catch that one and went over the curbs there through Lecombe.
Yeah, Adam Rainey just asking a little too much of the rear end of the car, and it bit just a little bit. There wasn't anything too major. I mean, to be fair, I respect the attempt, but it wasn't going to work. Not on tyres that are that old. Not that they're like majorly old, but with 2 times tyre wear, remember that these tyres aren't going to be in the most comfortable spot, even 5-10 laps into a race. Because if you think of it, 10 laps into a race, it would be as if the tyres have done twice the race, or half the race distance, twice the distance from what you've currently done, so 20 laps. The tyres will be a bit uncomfortable by that point to race their way through. And it's why we're kind of doing this in FSR. It's why the pit lane speed's 100k. It's why the tyre wear's on 2 times. We want to try and encourage kind of pit stops. We want to try and encourage strategy, encourage outthinking on that side of things, rather than just having the bland, it's a one-stop race and we're all just going to do the same thing. Like, that's boring.
Yeah, that's why our pit lane speed limit is 100 k's an hour in style instead of 60. It does encourage a bit of pit stopping, as we're seeing here from Nizio and Panzar, excuse me. So yeah, it's oh, that was going to be close. Out of the pit lane, side by side indeed, and Panzar is going to be the one to yield by the looks of things on the outside line. So yeah, that's all why those things are in place. Because yeah, we don't want to see boring one-stop races all the time, because they're dull. And so we want to see a little bit of strategy. What is perfect, I guess, is kind of being on the boundary between 2 and 3 stop.
Yeah, 100%.
Even though 3 stops can be entertaining, but when it's obvious what the 3 stop is, it's you might as well have no stops, to be honest, because everyone's just doing the same thing. So yeah, having it this way is we found the perfect balance here in this particular race, which is of course a good thing, and it's thrown up all kinds of surprises. We've seen the order all out of place all day, as these 2 can't leave each other alone by the looks of things.
Yeah, Nizio versus Panzar. Panzar's going around the outside, the Swede. Oh, what a send that is. Obviously fresher tyres, and he's made it stick all the way around the outside. What a superb bit of combat between the 2. Side by side through Lecombe, through Malmedy, through Ravage, through No Name as well, as we hit Pouon. And that is Panzar ahead in 13th. Good effort from the pair of them. Again, yeah, we always say it takes 2 to tango, and that was a beautiful display as to how side-by-side contact can be when you can actually race properly.
Yeah, the softer tyres there for Panzar really helping him out. A bit of a surprise to see those 2 going on different sets of tyres with just 12 laps to go in this race. Not sure why Panzar has gone for the softs. They might just tail off towards the end, but yeah, he certainly made use of them there around the outside of the hairpin, making his way through. Speaking of making your way through, Alex Siebel getting up into the 5th position now. 2 stops so far today. Not sure when he came in for those softs though at this point. I've kind of forgotten. But yeah, we'll see if he's going to the end on those or not. I'd imagine maybe not. but not really sure. It's kind of all over the place. This battle for second, by the way, is very, very close between second to sixth. About 5 seconds separating those 5 cars. So they could finish in any order at this stage. It really is up in the air.
Yeah, Alex Siebel came in 5 laps ago. Dennis Jordan came in 14 laps ago. Michi Hoyer 8, and Noah Roivers 9 laps ago. So they're all kind of separated by quite a lot. But in that sense, it should really be Alex Siebel that will be the fastest of this group. And I think that is rightfully so, as he closes right in on Noah Roivers. This is back to Adam Rainey, who's dropped down from 10th position behind Cass Rietveld and Sandar Callis. I don't believe that is due to another pit stop. He might well have made his 3rd, and I do believe that is the case.
Yes, he has indeed made his 3rd pit stop at this stage. But once again, putting the mediums on. So there seems to be a bit of disagreement at this stage in the race as to what tyre will actually get you to the end faster. Will those mediums just holding out on the tyre life a little bit better, hold on a little bit better than the softs that you're going to burn through quite quickly? We're about to find out. We're here with Roivers and Grankvist as well. What tyres are they going to pick on this occasion? Because there just seemed to be a bit of disagreement in the field about which tyres will get you to the end quickest from here.
Well, say, if Adam Rainey can actually work his way inside the top 10 again, I know from 15th spot. Speaking of drivers, we said about Skovron and stuff that had impressed us. Oh my goodness me, squeezing onto the grass. That was very, very naughty indeed. I am not a fan of that in one shape. I'm baffled.
Well, yeah, it was a bit dicey in the end. It really depends. We do need to see a replay of it a little
100%.
bit to see really what quite went on, because it didn't look good. Lewis not a fan.
No, you know how I am.
No, I know. Yeah, you don't. On this occasion, it was Michi Hoyer on the grass. So there you are. Michi can.
You know how it feels now, son.
No, I wasn't going to say that. I guess not get the abuse from you after the race once again. But anyway,
Dennis Jordan, right?
We'll see if Dennis Jordan does. Yeah, let's have a look at the replay, shall we? Coming up at the Kemmel Straight for the 33rd time here today. But yeah, it certainly didn't look good from the previous shot that we got there. But I suppose he held on to the position. Here we go into Eau Rouge.
Let's see how angry I get, shall we? As we'll roll through Eau Rouge. Here's the advantage from Michi Hoyer. That's a big snap from Michi Hoyer. He's got quick hands to save that one. So here we are, DRS wide open. The movement's done, kind of moving across. I mean, okay, I will say, Michi Hoyer was never alongside, which is a critical thing, but he did have the momentum to go for that gap. So it's kind of... that one is more 50-50. From the first angle we got where it was dead on, it was really, really rough. From that one, if it were me behind Dennis Jordan's car, I would have either chopped off more aggressively to make sure that there was no room on the inside, or moved over enough that there was a car width there. The thing was that he picked that 50-50 sort of slow, lazy diagonal, and that's where the rough issue really happens. Noah Roivers, either way, pit stop done. Dennis Jordan's in, Michi Hoyer's in, and Noah Roivers is up into 4th position now, but I think he might instantly lose it to Dennis Jordan, who is going to... See, that's how I'd cover off, as Dennis Jordan now has to go around the outside, going into Les Combes. Deep onto the brakes, and away he goes. Michi Hoyer also trying to commit with it. There might be a little bit of a brush between the two of them, but that is done. And Noah Roivers was up 2 positions, is down 2 positions.
Yeah, Grankvist having a look as well into the hairpin, but not able to make that move stick. So these 4 now have all made their final pit stop of the day. Let's not forget Jordan has only made 2 today, the rest of them 3, but they're all pretty much on the same till the end. They've all got the same life of soft tyres to take them through the last 11 laps of this race. So it's a straight fight between the 4 of them. And of course, Alex Siebel is going to join them soon as well. Lauren Kiersmakers has only made 2 stops in this race, and he's on softs that he's been on for a while, so he is going to be making a pit stop soon.
So Dennis Jordan has just pitted. Now, bearing in mind this is a team that we were being like, maybe they'll get a couple of top 5s. They're genuinely aiming for 2 podiums here.
Yes, we know nothing. That's the thing we can take from this, because yeah, this is a great performance by the looks of things to Red Bull. They do still need to do something about Koningsborg though. It's round the outside for Hoyer there on Kiersmakers. I know there's old tyres there for Kiersmakers, but still a very impressive move from Hoyer to get himself up into 4th place. Kiersmakers, though, going to be into the pit lane here for MG Sports.
He's just going to bail straight away. So Dennis Jordan up into 3rd. Koningsborg's been into the pit lane. Alex Siebel then will lead here at Spa. And Dennis Jordan on a charge, but he's got to defend from Michi Hoyer. We will catch up with him, so I do get to ask the question about how he pushed someone off onto the grass. That'll be a bit of banter. You know how I like to ask the awkward question there. You're not a fan of it?
Well, no, I don't agree that he pushed someone off onto the grass on that occasion. That's all.
You think it was Mitchy Hoyer going for a gap that wasn't there?
Yeah, just about. Yeah,
Yeah, kind of. Okay, we're agreeing.
This gap certainly is there, and he's on the outside line with the DRS. Should be able to make his way through, and does. Roivers does the same to Grankvist. As I said, these four have basically got the same live tyres and the same compound of tyres on for the remaining 10 laps of this race, so it's going to be a straight fight between them, basically for second place, unless Alex Siebel can come out ahead of all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think Adam Rainey's had further issues, by the way, as I was just about to big him up for doing really well. He is down in fifth. Oh, no, never mind. I think it was just a technical problem because he's back up to step. Because I was going to say, before I was rudely interrupted before some grass driving, that Adam Rainey's done such a good job after having 2 top 10s in the previous 2 races. And he might be looking for a 3rd consecutive top 10 in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, which for a driver who... realistically might have been said to be out of his depth by jumping into the World Championship. I think that is a great way of being like, okay, that's fine, you're allowed to have that opinion, but also I'm going to get some top 10, so lol.
Yeah, it is his debut season after all, so getting top 10s is... I know that top 10s are less significant now because obviously you get points in all of the positions,
yeah,
so it's not like point scoring... Not point scoring positions anymore, but it does still matter to get the top 10. Of course, we still talk about Siebel's top 10 record, which is still going on.
A ridiculous
record that is not coming to an end today either. But yeah, here it is. Battle for the race lead, as trivial as it is at this stage. There's still 9 laps to go. Here's Spork on the back of Siebel.
Yeah, his top 10 streak may not be coming to a close at this point, but his race leading time will come to a close as Push to Pass and DRS and Colin Spork. I mean, that might be one of the most boring passes for the race lead we've ever seen. It was just so matter-of-fact, so easy for Colin Spork, such as his dominance in the day. It's not a Grand Slam, though, so, you know, each their own. Not led every single lap, set the fastest lap, and then won the race as well from pole position, which he didn't have either. So, you know, Mitchy Hoyer had that, so definitely not a Grand Slam weekend for Colin Spork. But either way, his dominance in the race knows no bounds as he continues to charge. Is Alex Siebel going to pit once more, or do you think he's going to stay out to the end of the race?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember how many laps he spent on those soft tyres, but it has certainly been a very long time. And yeah, it's I can't see him going to the end on those softs, but you never know. 9 laps on them at the moment. What are there, 8 laps to go at the line, 17 laps on a set of softs. We haven't seen anybody do that all day. I think didn't Jordan do 16 maybe at the start of this race, or maybe somewhere around there? So who knows? It might well be possible, although it does look like that Jordan and Siebel, if you want anybody to go long on your tyres, it would probably be one of them two.
Yeah, I think I'm not necessarily sure as to if he does. As I said, 9 laps at present. The Jordan did 17 on mediums. His last stint was Alex Siebel on the soft. Yeah, either way. Well, I'm just going to continue my point anyway before I get interrupted by Waffle Boy just coming into the pit lane. But no, when he did his previous stint, it was 9. Was like 11 laps. So kind of makes sense. He's doing him a little bit shorter. But now he's going to go aggressive and go on the attack as he looks for another top 5. Jan Grankvist and Noah Roivers should have gone through and certainly have done, but still the top 5 is on. Is the podium on?
I think it's the podium's going to be between Hoyer and Jordan at this stage. You see how hard they're fighting over it at the moment. They're even getting away from Roivers and Grankvist, who are about to go side by side in the background. Big defence from the Netrex driver, just enough room given, but a very good attempt on the outside here from Grankvist, although he's squeezed through the second part and so won't be able to make his way into 4th place. So yeah, I think I can see Siebel getting a top 5 here. I can see him getting into 4th, but I can't really see him infiltrating the battle between Hoyer and Jordan. These next few laps, though, are very, very important for him. He does need to get up to the back of these guys quite quickly because we don't really have that many laps remaining.
No, indeed. The time is ticking down, and the only person who doesn't really care about that is Colin Spork. For everyone else, this is going to be a tight battle towards the line. You've got Mitchy Hoyer, Dennis Jordan, Noah Roivers, Jan Grankvist, and Alex Siebel. Realistically, I think those 5 are all actually bad. And I swear I'm going to disagree with you. I think that Noah Roivers and Jan Grankvist they're not there yet, and I know they've obviously been passed and then pulled away from. I get that, but I still think over the final bits of the race, if they can just about find it, especially if Hoyer and Jordan battle, especially if Alex Siebel comes through and drags them a little bit, I would say they're absolutely still a part of the battle. Just might take a little bit of luck and a little bit of outside assistance rather than just their own pace and lapping. This is battle for second, then Hoyer ahead of Dennis Jordan, and the two are going to fight hammer and tongs for this one. This is going to be a bit of a brutal one, I think.
Yeah, they are going to at this stage. It really depends whether they want to do this yet. Are they concerned about those three behind, and do they want to? Well, Jordan's going to have no choice but to go through now because Hoyer made a bit of a mistake out of La Source there, and so he's going to be under all kinds of pressure here. Not using any push to pass to defend from that either. So he's just going to let himself get overtaken by the looks of things. DRS for Jordan, and you're going to see him cruise on by. I do get the feeling that these two are a little bit concerned about the three behind and will work together for maybe a couple more laps just to give themselves that little bit of distance so that then they can properly fight over those final few places. But Siebel does look very, very quick indeed.
Yeah, let's see. Kind of the first sector though, from actually, I know the first sector is the one that's kind of a nothing sector for in the race, because obviously with DRS and stuff, you could be on hard tyres and set the fastest first sector, right? So it doesn't really matter too much. We need to see what it's like when across the second sector, because he did lose a little bit of time in the first.
Well, he is behind Grankvist now, so it's not going to be a true representation even still, because there is going to be there's a car on the way, so he's not going to be able to put on quite the full pace that he would be able to. But yeah, you can just see almost visually at this stage, he's so much quicker. Everybody else in the 45s to 46s, where is Siebel at this stage, coming up to, out of the curve Paul Frere, and now towards Blanchimont. Yeah, 45.3 is quicker than anybody else's middle sector, even with Jan Grankvist in the way. Into the bus stop chicane they go at the moment. Siebel late on the brakes, but not late enough. Grankvist very impressive on the brakes there.
I think he overdid it a bit as well. You can kind of see as he just kicked the rear out just a touch, and Alex Siebel now back into the slipstream as they'll head down to La Source. Had a little cheeky look once again, but he's going to have to wait here, isn't he? He's going to have to wait until they're on to the Kemmel Straight. His last lap time was a 43.5. I agree with you, it's not 100% relevant, but that was faster than the two cars ahead in Roivers and Jan Grankvist. It wasn't as fast as, or just a little bit faster rather than Dennis Jordan. Let's see, here's the move. This is surely going to be an easy one. DRS wide open again, a little bit of cheeky push to pass, and that should be Alex Siebel comfortably ahead as we ride on board with Jan Grankvist.
Yeah, and once again you saw Jordan and Hoyer not fighting it out. They are a little bit concerned about those behind. I think Hoyer's more concerned than anything. I don't think Jordan would mind battling so much that his teammate gets allowed into the fray, because obviously that allows a bigger likelihood of at least one of them finishing on the podium. And it almost guarantees one of them on the podium, and there's a chance that they can both get there as well. So, but he's not the one who's behind at this stage. Hoyer certainly does not want that at this moment. He would rather only deal with one Red Bull at a time rather than the both of them. But I don't think he's going to have that much choice. The way Siebel's coming through this group now, the way he is a lot quicker than everybody else on the road right now, does suggest that he will be there in those final moments. There's still 5 laps to go here, so he's certainly got an opportunity, but he won't have that many laps remaining. When he gets there, it's into the wall, and Grankvist coming out of Stavolo and no rear wing.
That is such a shame. After such a good race for Jan Grankvist, this, by the way, at Blanchimont is going to be a hefty crash if he doesn't slow down, because he's going way too quick. The rear end is surely going to drop away from that car. I think he did scrub off enough speed, managed to catch it just a little bit. I'll say that's a good little bit of car control, because that is very easy to drop. We'll see this on board from Jan Grankvist. So we'll head through Fania, and like I say, it was out of campus before Stavolo. It was in that little section between the two, and a big snap on the rear end. Let's see. On board with the Super Venturi driver into that little braking zone, hooks it around onto the curb and just boom, it just bottomed out ever so slightly. That's a rough one. That's uncatchable.
It's yeah, so unfortunate for Grankvist. It's such a fantastic performance from him today, running inside the top 5 most of the day, well inside the top 10, and yeah, having not finished higher than 15th all season, he'll be really disappointed to have to drop all the way down the order. I think he still will get 15th, but what's that going to matter to him at this stage when he was looking at possible top 5 there? So really disappointed for him there, and hopefully he can build up some similar kind of form in a few weeks' time when we go racing once again for the next round. Because yeah, it'd be a shame to see this great performance be like a one-round thing rather than this continuing on. But yeah, it certainly will have knocked his confidence a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, in a few weeks we'll go racing for round 2 of the Formula SimRacing World Championship. Was it 3?
Yes.
Was it it was 3. Matsusaka, of course, the round that we missed a little bit earlier on. So we'll see that one unfold. Here is Dennis Jordan and Michi Hoyer. They have switched over, and they switch back again into the slipstream, of course. I don't know why. kind of want to argue why Michi Hoyer was ahead at this point. You know, obviously, why would you pass before going in? Because I'm assuming that was done into La Source.
This is a replay from a lot earlier. You can see in the background there that Siebel is behind. It's a replay from a bit earlier. This is how Jordan got through on Hoyer, and this is basically why we haven't seen them overtaking one another from here, because Hoyer doesn't want to allow Siebel in the background there to get involved in this fight, but by the
he doesn't have a choice.
He's done everything he can, but he doesn't have a choice. He's going to get involved whether you like it or not. So Hoyer, I guess, might as well just start fighting anyway. Although, does it really matter until the final lap? I feel like the second place driver in this group is going to finish second.
Hey, the meme that I said that Red Bull Racing, when they're going to struggle to finish 4th and 5th in this race, and they're going for 2nd and 3rd, we were both kind of aiming in that direction. Michi Hoyer, though, is going to grab 2nd position for now. Dennis Jordan's going to stay around. Oh, Dennis Jordan left it in there. They're both in the barrier. Alex Siebel's going to come through. And now Rovers right into the mix at the end, and he's just smashed into the rear of Michi Hoyer. Just what carnage this is. It's going to promote loads of people up. There's damage on the front for Noah Rovers. Damage on the front. Oh, and Janis Brakshock, what's going on?
Oh, I think it's Jordan trying to rejoin there, has sent Brakshock off the road. So Kismakers is going to be all the way up the order. Deary me, this is absolutely disastrous. Siebel looks like he's avoided it all just about. Roybus hasn't. Demian Skrovron's going to be on the podium here somehow. This is a remarkable turnaround for him. Michi Hoyer is obviously going to drop down. There's Roybus with no front wing. Skrovron's going to be 3rd. What on earth has gone on here? This is an absolute disaster. Hoyer and Jordan, 2 of the biggest names in this championship, 2 of the most experienced names in this World Championship. You would not have thought it looking at these last few moments here, because this is a complete mess, I'm afraid. And we'll get a proper look at it here. First of all, it's starting with Michi Hoyer.
Yeah, well, we probably need to see it on board with Dennis Jordan, because that's the one where we'll really see who's on board. Here we are then with Dennis Jordan around the outside. I mean, it's that little bit of contact there as Hoyer came off. I don't know where I would go with the blame on that one. It's a really tricky one. No, Roybus coming through a little bit too hot. I think he was already committed at that point. Janis Brakshock. Why did Janis Brakshock go off? So what caused him to depart the race? He was just avoiding. He just kind of saw it a bit late.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure if Jordan was backing. Oh dear, this went even worse as well for Brakshock, I'm afraid. And there's his front wing. Oh dear.
I will say, Dennis Jordan wasn't like backing up straight onto the racing line.
No.
So even if he was, I wouldn't actually say that was a terrible rejoin from Dennis Jordan. He's just trying to do his little bit. There's nothing too major. All I'll say is that is a crazy and shocking, not World Championship level moment.
And Jan Granqvist is back in the top 5 all of a sudden, in some remarkable turn of fortune here. He's inside the top 5. Adam Rainey is challenging him for this top 5 position. This has gone completely mad now, with most of the top names right towards the bottom. You see Vozika, Jordan and Hoyer 12th, 13th and 14th in this race at the minute, with Adam Rainey and Jan Granqvist battling over the top 5.
But Noah Roybus is 8th place and not far behind us, and of course on very, very fresh tyres, so watch out for him catching.
Did he pit there? I'm not entirely sure if he's pitted, because these guys are spending a lot more. Well, I suppose Hoyer's got a lot more damage.
It's the rear wing. It's the rear wing.
The rear wing's longer. Yeah.
He only had the front wing, and he got into the pit lane a lot quicker. You can see here, front wing is back on Roybus as he attacks Sandor Keller's crazy end to the Belgian Grand Prix here in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship.
I'm not counting out Roybus for a top 5 here still, because you've got to remember he's put fresh tyres on as well. So he'll have the freshest tyres out of anybody out the front here, as they all go a bit wayward. They're back on again now, though. Yeah, I mean, could be very much a top 5 here. As long as he clears Callis quite quickly, he's going to be racing up to the back of Rainey very quickly. And Granqvist as well, although Roybus looks like he's disconnected.
Oh my goodness me.
Disconnection.
We do believe that is a disconnection for Noah Roybus. Oh, my heart goes out to the kid, because that's rough. Brake failure in the last few moments of the San Marino Grand Prix. That here, you absolutely cursed him by saying he might get a top 5, even though I don't believe in the commentator's curse, but that one is a rough one. Can't say that's bad driving. That is just terrible, terrible luck. Cass Rietveld here then in 9th. So he's moved up. He was up 14th earlier on in this race and is now in the top 10 with a 9th place finish right now. They'll head on to the penultimate lap of the race, and my brain can't quite keep up with this race right now.
This is just absolutely bizarre, to be quite honest. I don't quite know what's happened either. No disrespect to the guys we're explaining, such kind of surprise at them being in the top 5 and the top 10, but it really is a very upside down order now. Vozika and Jordan, definitely with their talent, should not be fighting over 11th position, but here they are, given the race situation that we've had. Obviously, Vozika was unlucky to get involved in that incident earlier with Kiersmakers and Callas. So he's back here through no fault of his own, really. Jordan as well, although it's hard to know where to put the blame in that one. He's back here as well, and they're suddenly fighting over 11th place. Outside line for Jordan, and he does need every point he can get round the outside. This is what he intended to do against Hoyer, and it's happened again. There's another bit of contact, and Vosnica has lost his rear wing for the second time today.
Goodness me, this has turned into something which is not really worthy of a world champion. I mean, it's exciting. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good laugh here, but this is not what we expect. I don't know who's at fault. I kind of get the feeling that the ambush might have bitten off Maury Cantu and drifted off of the apex. That's at least my general vibe. We'll ride on board with Vosnica here. So you'll see him turn in I'm not sure if Dennis Jordan gave enough room there.
I can't tell really from that angle. It's hard to tell for me, but there's certainly going to be a lot of things for the stewards to be looking through here. Does Jordan come down on Vosnica a bit too much, or does Vosnica get on that curb and drift out to
maybe a bit of
Jordan?
Both.
Maybe both. I don't know if I'd really put the blame on anybody there. The fact he went around completely was a bit unlucky. Just the way the cars were in relation to each other sent him around, which is the worst thing. And he's out of the race, unfortunately, now as well. So that is a real shame to see. But yeah, here he is, Colin Spork, not minding his own business entirely, not involved with any of this kind of battling and the craziness going on behind. He's cruising to his 4th victory of the season. Just another great performance, and all of the chaos of the last 10 minutes as well, of course, have all played into his hands. Basically, the only one of his main rivals is Alex Siebel, who's managed to keep anywhere near to him. So it looks like for the moment he's going to come out of today with more than 40 points of a championship lead.
Yeah, double retirement then for the NetRex P1 Sim Grand Prix team, but for a thriller in Spa, to be perfectly honest. Anything but that for Colin Spork. He's just driven to perfection and completely dominates the Belgian Grand Prix here in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. Round number 6 is another victory, his 4th of the season, and Unicorns of Love are on top once again. It is Colin Spork, our championship leader, doing what he does best, leading from the front. Alex Ewell will take 2nd position, and somehow through all of this, Damien Scovron, who I was critical of earlier on, what a drive. I mean, yes, the drama has fallen upon him, but he has just come through, and a 3rd spot for Burst Esports. That is absolutely superb. And Lauren Kiersmakers in 4th. What an order this is, by the way. Obviously, Scovron there in 3rd. Then Kiersmakers. Jan Grankvist, despite losing a rear end in 5th. Adam Rainey is coming round for his 3rd consecutive top 10. His best finish in the World Championship, and just one shy of a top 5 with 6th. Ahead of Sandal Callas. Robin Panzar back inside the top 10. Cass Rietveld and Dennis Jordan will round out that top 10 to end what I'm going to say. It was a little bit, not quite World Championship-esque. It's not an epic to go back to, but it was a thriller.
It was very entertaining indeed. A lot of chaos going on throughout that race, and yeah, a really bizarre one, it has to be said, throughout. This is what happened on the last lap, I do believe. Jordan obviously ending up in the 10th position by the looks of things, just behind Rietveld in the end, coming up through Eau Rouge and Radion again. This is on Nizio, by the way, on the outside line. It's going to be a pretty easy move by the looks of things for Jordan. Well, Nizio was nowhere near him by the end of the lap, so I do wonder if something's happened here into Lecombe. It doesn't look like anything happened at all. It was just a nice, easy move for Jordan to make his way through. But yeah, what a bizarre race, and what a bizarre ending to that one there. Spork, obviously the race winner, but that's about the only thing that went to plan in that one. Scrubber on the podium, and yeah, you're saying that obviously those incidents obviously helped him get onto the podium, but you've got to be there to take advantage of it. And yeah, thankfully this no longer matters, because Spork is not doing a good job at this.
DQ, mate. DQ for that. Where's my donuts? Come on, lads. That you can do better than that. Colin Spork, though, either way, well, he's going to get bored of hearing our voices, and we can probably get bored of hearing his with the amount that he is winning and being on the podium this season. Yet another one, and his 4th win of 2022 puts him right at the top of the standings and right at the top of our leaderboard here at Spa. Alex Siebel and Damien Scovron will catch up with those three hopefully a bit later on, with Lauren Kiersmakers and Jan Grankvist. Adam Rainey, again, super stuff, with Sandar Callas in 7th place. Robin Panzar in 8th, Cass Rietveld in 9th. 10th place for Dennis Jordan. The grid order, the finishing order rather, behind that sees Casper Nizio finishing 11th spot, and then Michi Hoyer a lap down despite starting this race from pole position. Ivan Leonov also a lap down before we get to the retirement list in Jan Vosnitzer, Noah Roivers, Janis Brakshock, Tom Oldermenger, Zolt Schuch, and Danny van der Neet. Well, hopefully, after what a crazy end that was, we will catch up with Colin Spork once again, who, again, I'm sure you're getting quite bored of hearing my voice, but to win at such a prestigious racetrack as Spa, I mean, it's surely got to stand up above the rest of the race wins this season.
Well, I mean, every win is good. Every win is 30 points, so it doesn't matter where I win. I want to win every time. And I mean, it was a great race. Qualifying was optimal. Mitchie did a great lap to put it on pole. But yeah, then Jan making a 3-1 into 1, it tied up my butt cheeks a bit right there because I heard it was 3 wide. But yeah, I just tried to keep it as wide as possible, get a good run, let Mitchie go, and then overtake him into the com, which was harder than I thought, unfortunately, harder than I would have thought it would be. But I mean, it's a fair fight, and in the end, I was able to just catch up to Jan and then chill behind a bit, just wait for his tires to drop. In the moment I saw him slide, I attacked and I tried to drive away. I mean, and then coming out of the pits, I heard that Mitchie went to the mediums, and I honestly didn't want to go to the mediums because if he would be in the mediums and he would be in a train, it would take him longer to pass. So I just wanted to go soft and try to get by everyone as quick as possible, which went very, very well, surprisingly, in the end. And I mean, it was quite a send, and I mean, I enjoyed it quite a lot to overtake the guys there, and for the rest, quite an enjoyable race, and great job to everyone, also Alex and also Dennis and Mitchie, unfortunately for the collision and then dropping back so far. But I mean, they had a great race, so really GG's to them.
It sounds like you kind of know. So this is kind of one of the typical questions that we say. You know, you had quite a for the most part, a fairly quiet race, just cruising around at front, dominating. But you seem like you kind of know about some of the dramas that went on behind. Because honestly, it was a crazy race from that. How do you kind of know about all that? Is it just communication within the team?
Yeah, I got an engineer during the race, Victor Ivanov, who's doing a great job the whole season already and working really well together. And the only thing I just heard in a certain lap when they spun was like, oh no, they spun, crashed in front wing there. And I mean, that's how I know. And I just always, I want to know everything what's going on in the race. So I talk a lot and just talking throughout the whole race. So I'm quite up to date with what's happening here and there.
Well, cheers to Colin again. I'm sure we'll be catching up with you next round before we head as we head to Matsusaka, which is a track which you did very well at. We'll move straight on to Alex Siebel, who a driver who we were kind of questioning as to where you were going to appear in this race. Obviously, with it being such an aggressive strategy race, we weren't sure if you were going to appear somewhere lower down in the top 10, somewhere in the top 5, and suddenly here you are, bang, in second position. Your consistency knows no bounds. Is there a track which you can't get a top 10 on? It's just ridiculous. I don't think we have Alex Siebel.
Oh, sorry.
No, we do have Alex Siebel.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
had my microphone on mute. Yeah. So yeah, pace today was really great, but I guess both Dennis and myself choked quali a lot, and then we were compromised. Yeah, from the start. I think otherwise we could have at least challenged Colin. So congrats to you. Yeah, but other than that, I knew that we can drive to the podium. Of course, with such a first stint where we lost a lot of time behind all the cars. It got quite difficult with the strategy, so we didn't really know what to do. That's why we split it. I felt more comfortable with 3-stop, Dennis with 2-stop. I guess both would have worked in the end, especially for Dennis. Yeah, but of course, I'm happy that it still got P2, and yeah, move on from here.
Do you like these strategy races where they're kind of, because we know that you and Dennis and that really do like your strategy on endurance races and such, but do you like these open wheel races where, hour and a half long, as we typically expect from this stuff, where they're wide open on strategy, 2 stops work, 3 stops work, and hey, maybe even some crazy strategies even outside of that?
Yes, for sure. I mean, because of the tire difference you get throughout the stint, you get a lot of action on the track, which other series are missing, I guess. And that's what I really like. I mean, we messed up the strategy in Silverstone. I guess we got it right both races today. So yeah, but these races are always much more fun than just kind of sprint races.
Wow, thank you, Alex. And I'm sure we're not going to, well, we're probably not going to be too long before we catch up with you once again in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. And then we'll go to someone who we haven't caught up with just yet. We've got Damien Scovron, who's joining us in the booth. And this is someone that we weren't expecting a podium from this afternoon, just came through the carnage. How are you feeling right now? This must be electric.
Yeah, well, that was actually one of the most luckiest podium on the FSR, I guess. Yeah, I spent like most of the race in positions between 7 and 10, and at the end something insane happened, and yeah, most of the people in front of me just died, and I just had to control my pace to the end and get the job done.
Do you think you're learning bits by bits as the rounds are going on? Obviously, this car's pretty tricky to drive. Do you think we'll see you on the podium again through the season?
Well, I hope so. I will do my best to be here again in the future. Yeah, of course, I struggle a lot with the car, which is really tricky for me, and I need more time to practice and get used to it. But yeah, I hope to repeat that result in the future. I hope in the next round.
Well, congratulations to all three of our podium sitters, to Colin Spork, our race winner, to Alex Siebel, and to Damien Scovron. Absolutely fantastic to catch up with you. Go and get some good rest, and we'll catch up with you later on. Before we go, though, of course, we do need to catch up with one Mr. Cameron Rodger, who's joining us here. He's been running the broadcast for most of the broadcast. We won't say all of it because obviously Felix did the first bit. But obviously, we need to speak about the next round of the World Championship.
Absolutely. It's been a very interesting race there. So we have a couple of slight changes because obviously we had the issues in Japan in the World Championship race, but also we had the issues then around later for the Pro Silverstone race. So on the 12th of June, which is in about 4 weeks' time, we're going to have the World Championship round 3. But just before that, on the normal schedule, we will have the Pro round 4 rerun. So this is a complete event. So we'll do all qualifying, and all of the race again for both of those. So that'll be Pro at Silverstone first at its normal time, and then it'll be WC and after that, before we go to the actual 7th round of the season, which will be the Italian Grand Prix from Monza, already getting towards the final 4 races of the season, but still that rerun to go. So 5 races for all of these drivers.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, an incredible round, and hopefully after that point we'll be back on form, and we'll have to wait and see how the race is going. And we did miss out on the Suzuka one. Of course, we need to see Netrex's pace there and see if it continues on. But here at Spa, what a race it was. What a thrill ride that we had.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like it towards the end or during an FSR World Championship race. It was so weird to see so many big names just falling by the wayside one by one, and yeah, it was very entertaining, but not of course what we want to see week in, week out. So yeah, hopefully next time out we'll have a bit of a smoother run of things towards the end. Certainly some of these guys will be hoping so. But yeah, here are the standings, and you can just see what those incidents have done to those standings now, with Spork leading by an absolute mile.
Yeah, it's 141 points the Unicorns of Love driver has at the top after 4 victories in the 2022 championship. Alex Siebel behind with yet another podium, 100 points to his name before we get to Dennis Jordan, who had a bit of a mare of it towards the end of the race. Noah Roivers with a disconnection late on as well. He'll be in 4th position. And Sander Callas, who's just ticking off a fair few points. Damien Scovron with that podium now moves up into 6th position in the championship. Laurent Kiersmakers as well on his return to the Formula Sim Racing World Championship in 7th with Jan Vosnitzer, and then Michi Hoyer, Robin Panzer in 10th. Well, I think that should just about wrap us up for round number 6 of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, and a crazy round it was. You can obviously join us in a few weeks' time on the 12th of June as we'll rerun round number 3 at Matsusaka, and that will be a plenty interesting one itself. Of course, we have already had the Pro and the Academy races there. We'll have the Pro round 4 rerun as well a little bit earlier on in that day before we get the season back underway proper. From us here in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, we'll wish you goodbye, but of course we need to thank our sponsors in the form of Masita Esports, 3D Wrap and SimLab, and of course our broadcast partners in VCO. From all of us here apparently in Manchester, which is hilarious, it's myself, Lewis McGlade, Ewan O'Leary, and of course our broadcast producer in Karen Rodger. Massive thanks as well to Felix Van Del for getting us underway, and we'll see you in a few weeks' time.